Hey everyone, welcome to our channel. I'm so excited you're here. The protagonist, Haruhiro, is a young man who suddenly finds himself in a strange, unfamiliar world with no memories of his past. Timid, quiet, and lacking in confidence, Haruhiro reluctantly steps into the role of leader for a group of inexperienced adventurers to fill the shoes of their former leader, but he struggles to find his place. Despite his insecurities, he gradually learns to trust his instincts and his teammates, growing into a more determined and reliable leader. Haruhiro's journey is filled with self-discovery as he goes through the challenges of survival to find a purpose in this new reality. The scene starts with a party of young people trying to bring down a goblin. During the fight, Maguzo, a fighter from the group, is struggling to keep up with the goblin. Atop a cliff, Chihiro trembles with fear as the goblin turns toward her. She begins to swiftly recite her spells but remains unsuccessful in completing any due to the sheer fear of the goblin as it rushes toward her. Soon, Minato, the healer of the party, arrives for the aid of Chihiro and manages to defend her from the goblin, throwing it far away. Seeing this, Maguzo has to stand up and continue the fight since he is meant to be the warrior of the group. Minato then tells everyone that this is life and death and that they should give it their all to defeat the goblin. Even though goblins are weak, Haruhiro, the thief of the party, admits to himself that they may not be able to take it down. The next morning, Haruhiro wakes up together with Ranta. After waking up, Ranta calls out Haruhiro for still being asleep. However, Haruhiro explains that his eyes are naturally like this. Ranta continues to show his annoying behavior, telling Haruhiro that he is lying. Soon, they are approached by Minato, who asks them to come to the courtyard after dressing up. Thereafter, Haruhiro starts panicking after realizing that it was supposed to be his shift to serve breakfast, but Minato calms him down, revealing that he already switched duties with him. Knowing that Haruhiro must be tired due to last night's fight with the goblin, Minato then makes his way to the kitchen where Haruhiro sees Maguzo preparing their meal and Yum and Chihiro are also helping. Minato goes on to hand over some of the ingredients to Chihiro that he got on the way back from last night's fight. Later, the group is having dinner. Maguzo comments how the food may be a bit undersalted, but Chihiro assures him that the food turned out to be quite tasty. Minato then inquires to Ranta and Haruhiro if they are not wounded since he cannot do anything about their blood loss. Ranta responds by mentioning how he is perfectly fit, whereas Haruhiro reveals that he sometimes feels dizzy a bit, but that's all. Minato then suggests that they go to hunt for a single goblin in the same place in the forest. He explains that they were unable to find success last time since two goblins proved to be much more powerful than them. As they chat further, Minato comments how this isn't a game as Renji's team is catching up with them as well. Hearing the word game, Haruhiro immediately questions Minato what it means, but they both don't seem to have an answer for it. It appears that Minato spewed out the word game without knowing what it actually means. Haruhiro then narrates how he came into the world of Grimgar. Before opening his eyes, Haruhiro heard a whisper waking him up and stated that he couldn't remember anything beyond that. He seemed to be surrounded by darkness. As he spoke, he also heard that there were others. Haruhiro got up and walked towards a door. As he got outside, he saw everyone he heard. Like Haruhiro, all of them have no idea where they are and how they got there. The next scene shows that they have been introduced to Brittany, the eccentric chief of the Red Moon office of the Volunteer Soldier Squad. Brittany welcomes them to Grimgar and to a town called Ortana. Renji, the silver-haired guy, questions Brittany about the Volunteer Soldier Squad, and the two of them have a bit of a quarrel but calm down after that. Brittany then brings out a bag of silver and says that whoever will join the Volunteer Squad will be given 10 silvers to start. From that point on, Haruhiro then realizes the importance of the conversation. If they accept, they have to volunteer as soldiers and kill monsters, and if not, they'll just starve and die. Renji then forms a party with strong and good-looking volunteers, then sets out. Haruhiro is then left out with his current party. Haruhiro, together with his party, set out to join their respective guild. In the Thieves Guild, Haruhiro is ambushed by his instructor, Barbara. She is surprised that Haruhiro chose to be a thief as his first job and tells him the importance of thieves only being realized as they grow experience. She then introduces herself and tells him that after his training, she will give him his own nickname. Haruhiro describes her as sadistic and merciless, but notes that she is also beautiful and sexy given her revealing clothes. She gives him his nickname Old Cat due to his sleepy eyes. Back with his party members, they discuss their own instructor and other stuff like Chihiro's breast, which irritates Yum. After chatting, they move out to scout for more goblins, but they only see goblins in a pack, which they can't fight. In the end, they don't manage to kill any like in their previous hunt, leaving them with little to no money left. That night, Haruhiro wakes up in the middle of the night and sees that Minato is not in his bed. Haruhiro then makes his way outside to search for him when coincidentally he bumps into him. Upon seeing him, the first thing Haruhiro asks Minato is if he went out to drink. Minato confirms this, leaving Haruhiro surprised since he had no idea Minato drank. Minato then explains that there is a place near the square on Hanazono Street called Shelly's Tavern where all the volunteer soldiers hang out. He went there to gain some more information. Minato then proceeds to light the fire while Haruhiro comments how he is surprised Minato got those drinks since they are very poor. Furthermore, Haruhiro acknowledges how Minato stays up all night to gather more information for the benefit of his group while the others sleep soundly. Minato then questions Haruhiro if he likes to drink, but it appears that he is unsure since he never had any. Minato then explains that maybe the reason why he went to the tavern is because he likes to drink. Haruhiro then suggests that they all go to the tavern some other time altogether, and Minato agrees. They then begin discussing the Thief Guild, where Minato reveals that he got scolded so much by his master that he started believing that the reason he was born was to be yelled at. This makes Haruhiro stop enjoying the moment after hearing such a tragic story about Minato. Haruhiro simply cannot fathom that things might happen to Minato as well, but Minato confirms that they do. Haruhiro further notices that the moon is very red, but he believes that it's only at their place the moon is red. Although he doesn't know where his current place is or how they got there, one thing that he is sure of is that something special is in store for the entire group. The next morning, they enter the Empty Belly Forest, and Haruhiro spots a lone goblin drinking water. He reports it to his entire team, and they immediately prepare their weapons, slowly heading toward the stream the goblin is. They hide in a bush while Haruhiro grabs his dagger and prepares to launch the attack. Before he can act, a damned insect advances toward the goblin, warning him. Haruhiro follows as the goblin starts to run, but Yume shoots an arrow and stops the goblin while Ranta, for some reason, fights with the trees. Haruhiro ends up tripping and falling on the riverbank, and the goblin doesn't waste the chance to attack. Haruhiro dodges and tries to counterattack but misses, leading to a direct confrontation with the goblin. He suddenly remembers his training and cuts the goblin's wrist, which only makes it angrier. Haruhiro continues to dodge and run while Minato tells everyone to attack. Ranta immediately throws a powerful blow, but he misses and gets kicked in the rear. When the goblin tries to finish him off, Minato saves him. Soon after, a spell is cast on the goblin, but anyone who isn't under the spell is blinded. They all surround the wretched creature as Moguzo tries to keep it occupied, but the goblin jumps back only to be stabbed in the back by Ranta. Realizing it won't survive, the goblin starts shouting, which scares them a little, but Ranta recovers and attacks again, colliding with the beast. Haruhiro and Yume also attack but are pushed back by the goblin. Shikoru tries once more, and this time she hits the goblin, but before Haruhiro can take advantage, the goblin throws his dagger at Haruhiro, stabbing him in the shoulder. He screams in pain as the goblin rushes and gets on top of him, ready to finish him off. At the last moment, Haruhiro stabs the goblin in the neck, while Ranta pushes it and Moguzo delivers a fatal blow to its head. Everyone is shocked by what just happened. Yume quickly runs to Haruhiro and helps him remove the dagger, and Minato heals him swiftly. Ranta immediately starts searching for something valuable in the creature's body and finds a silver coin around its neck. Suddenly, the goblin starts to run away again, but Haruhiro follows, stabbing it over and over to ensure it is dead this time. Once he's certain, he falls to the ground and starts crying, noticing that his hands are completely shaking from all the violence. Afterward, they head back to town, where they sell everything they find for money and divide up their shares before going their separate ways to spend the afternoon. Haruhiro decides to explore the market, where he sees all kinds of people, including Ranta, who looks sad and is eating while the others enjoy the end of their day in different ways. That night, everyone meets on the bridge, watches the sunset together, and then heads back to bed, knowing they will have to work again the next day to get food. The next morning, Moguzo is peacefully preparing the breakfast for the entire group. He is then approached by Haruhiro, who brings him some eggs. Moguzo then continues to prepare the breakfast. Seeing his utter determination, Haruhiro questions him if he likes to cook, since it is not even his duty to prepare breakfast. Haruhiro then questions Moguzo if he likes to eat or cook more. Thereupon, Moguzo immediately focuses on the boiling water that has started to spill out of the pot. Moguzo goes on to remove the excessive water and replies that he likes to do both eat and cook. Moguzo then continues by commenting that he likes to cook food for others whether or not they like them or not. However, Haruhiro is quick to inform him that everyone likes his food. He then goes out to wake everyone else up. Later, Yume has everyone boy from the group kneel as the wall to the restroom is broken. It appears that someone was trying to take a peek. Although the three, Minato, Haruhiro, and Moguzo, are acting with shame, Ranta stays shameless, telling Yume that it's not that big of a deal. Yume then calls him out for doing it and even threatens to call the cops on him. But Ranta reminds her that there are no police in this town. Furthermore, Ranta advises Yoon not to take hand towels with her next time, making her realize that he was peeking after all. Realizing that he is caught, Ranta calls Yoon flat-chested, but she doesn't go mad. Yoon plays a tactic, telling him that she won't get mad no matter what Ranta says. Seeing this opportunity, Ranta confesses that it was him who was trying to peek, igniting a reaction from Yoon as she charges toward him in a fit of rage. After that, the days become increasingly difficult to survive as it always starts to rain while they are in the forest, forcing them to take shelter under tents. Yoon and Haruhiro venture out and find a used campfire and a bunch of footprints made by goblins. Haruhiro counts at least 3 sets of footprints and decides to stay away for now. They return to the rest of the team, and they all decide to come back the next day as they can't fight anything in this rain, which means they haven't earned a dime today. 3 days pass, and they have gained literally nothing due to the heavy rain. They are so poor that Haruhiro can't even afford a pair of underwear and is forced to wash and reuse the same pair over and over again. The next day, they go to a neighboring town, which is in total ruin, but the good thing is that the goblins here are not very alert, making them easy targets. Haruhiro goes out and finds a sleeping goblin in an abandoned house and informs the group. They all get ready to make the goblin slayer proud. They take up their positions, and Ranta slowly approaches a goblin and stabs it in the neck. The goblin wakes up, screaming and trying to attack him, but Minato quickly hits it in the face and then in the head, finishing it off. They end up obtaining a large number of items from this goblin, which greatly boosts the group's morale. However, Minato says it's too early to celebrate as they still need to return safely. After that day, this ruined city becomes their favorite place, as they often encounter goblins that are easy to kill. Sometimes they are forced to fight in the open, and they see groups of 4 to 5 goblins, but fighting them is completely out of the question, so they avoid them and continue to focus on the lone, inexperienced goblins. Soon, they begin to accumulate capital, and finally, Haruhiro has enough money to buy new underwear. Ranta and Mabuzo spend their money on food and even bring a lot of it home. However, Minato tells them to stop spending so quickly because if they save enough, they can learn new skills that will help them during their fights. Meanwhile, in Yume's room, she and Shihoru are having a conversation where Yume reveals to her that they can buy clothes to wear indoors as well. Stating that she is not optimistic at all, Yume comments on Shihoru's hair clip being cute. Yume then advises Shihoru to interact more with the boys, stating that she just wants to see her talk more since Shihoru stays quiet most of the time. There, Shihoru assures Yume that she will try and talk more from now on. Back in the boys' room, Haruhiro is staring at Minato while he is reading a book. There, Haruhiro calls for Minato but thanks him instead of telling him what he intends to do. In response, Minato explains that he is the one who should be grateful for them to consider him as their friend. Haruhiro believes that Minato can ask for a favor from any other party and join it, but Minato explains that he is not the type of person who goes around and asks for favors. He further believes that he is not someone that people would be friends with, but Haruhiro thinks otherwise. Ultimately, Haruhiro tells Minato that they accept him as he is, and that he's their friend and leader. The two then proceed to go to sleep as Minato takes out the lantern. Meanwhile, Shihoru carefully keeps her hair clip on the table, signifying the love and care she has started giving to it after getting complicated by Yume. The next morning, Minato and Shihoru go out to get the morning supplies, but upon returning, Minato decides to feed some birds. He notices the girl watching his actions with curiosity and asks if she wants to try it. Although she refuses at first, she later agrees and tries to feed the birds. When she does, one of the pigeons jumps onto her, causing her to trip and fall in fright. Fortunately, Minato catches her, asking if she's okay. Minato then helps her get up and mentions that he is glad that he finally gets to talk with her. This embroils Shukuro greatly as she stands there, confused about Minato's intentions. Another animal then approaches Minato, who then proceeds to feed it as well. Seeing his love for animals, Shukuro questions Minato if he likes to stay in their company. In no time, Minato confirms Shukuro's query. That day, everyone heads toward the usual ruins to work, and one of the goblins approaches Ranta for a direct fight. Ranta launches the first attack, but the goblin easily dodges the blow. While Ranta engages in the confrontation, Haruhiro and Yume get into position. Yume uses her new ability called the Slasher, which allows her to hit enemies from afar. Taking advantage of this distraction, Haruhiro runs toward the goblin, dodges its blow, and stabs it in the back, completely eliminating it. With that done, Yume begins to clean her weapons while Ranta starts to loot the goblin's body. However, there are still many other goblins in the area. Yume immediately uses her new ability called Shadow Binding, launching it at one of the unsuspecting goblins, who gets stuck in place. Minato quickly breaks the goblin's arm with a hit to the shoulder, and Ranta finishes the job with a quick strike. Meanwhile, Mobuzo is involved in a fight in which he has the upper hand thanks to his great strength. He hits a goblin in the head before using his special attack, which sends the monster flying against a wall. Ranta jumps on the goblin to finish it off. They collect whatever loot they find and sit down for lunch after a very successful morning hunt. Everyone talks about how much they have advanced as a team and how they are finally working in synergy to defeat enemies much more easily. They even discuss the possibility of attacking larger groups of goblins now that they are much more experienced and stronger. They get up to carry out the afternoon hunt, but as Minato leads the group, Haruhiro suddenly notices something shining. He immediately jumps toward Minato, pushing him away as an arrow hits him in the shoulder. Haruhiro falls to the ground, and as Minato runs toward him, another goblin launches an arrow, hitting Haruhiro in the leg and making him scream in pain. The group immediately drags Haruhiro to safety, but at that moment, they hear the girl scream as a giant goblin appears. Ranta immediately runs toward the giant goblin while Moguzo is busy fighting another one. Minato tells everyone to retreat, but they realize they are heavily outnumbered and will die if they don't flee soon. They hide in the buildings and continue to flee until a goblin climbs to the top of a building and launches a perfect arrow that threatens to end all their lives. The arrow hits Minato, but he keeps running until everyone finally reaches the forest. Everyone is breathing hard, and Haruhiro notices that Minato looks pale. Suddenly, Minato collapses, and Haruhiro sees an arrow lodged in his back. Everyone quickly surrounds him and tries to help, but Minato is the only one who knows how to use healing magic. He tries to heal himself, but he isn't blessed with the strength to do so. In desperation, Haruhiro asks him what they should do. Minato tries to say something, but ends up dying from excessive blood loss right in front of them. They desperately try to revive him, but it is in vain. Out of options, they take Minato to a temple where a priest might be able to use healing magic to revive him. However, just by looking at Minato, the old man says he can't help because Minato is already dead. Ranta gets furious and threatens the old man while Haruhiro tries anything he can think of to revive Minato. The old man calmly explains that nothing can be done and advises them to have a proper funeral, as those who do not receive a proper burial become zombies under the command of the Demon King's army. They ask if they have to cremate Minato, and the old man nods. Everyone is desperate, and Haruhiro asks if the cremation costs money. Unfortunately, the old man says it costs a significant amount, but if they can't afford it, he will pay, as Minato was one of his best students. Outraged, Haruhiro yells that they will pay for Minato's funeral. No matter the cost, he is a great friend and deserves a proper farewell. Everyone mourns the death of their team leader, who was always calm, cool, and collected, and who always made sure everyone survived, no matter what. In the end, after cremating him, they leave his ashes in a beautiful valley. After that, they all lie down exactly where they are, not knowing what else to do. It was Minato who used to make plans and set everything in motion, but without him, the group feels aimless and completely lost. Ranta finally gets up and tells them that he's leaving. Haruhiro asks him where he's going, but Ranta simply replies that anywhere would be better, as he's not going to sit here brooding over the dead. Ranta, unsure of what to do, and Haruhiro sit there a while longer. That night, Haruhiro and Moguzo go to the nearest tavern, and Ranta is sitting alone at a table. They join him for a few drinks and talk about what to do next. Ranta tells them he doesn't want to venture out anymore. He states that he doesn't have the will or strength to go back into the forest and kill enemies, so he thinks they should just find another job. Haruhiro tries to tell him that they have to be adventurers, as there is no explanation for that. It's just who they are. Ranta explodes, shouting at Haruhiro. Haruhiro doesn't back down, and the two start yelling at each other. During the fight, Ranta goes too far, saying that Haruhiro is the reason Minato died, and that he was the one who took arrows trying to defend himself. Before their fight escalates further, Moguzo, who is usually calm and shy, shouts at them both in anger. Finally, everyone calms down and begins discussing what they should do now. Ranta states that he doesn't believe they can move forward alone, as none of them are as good as Minato. A man named Kikoa then approaches them, saying he overheard their conversation from afar and asks how they are. They tell them about the death of their friend and leader, and he expresses his sympathy, but says they need to carry on. He then reassures them not to worry about the past and encourages them to continue, advising them to find a priest to join their group or they will be dead. Haruhiro states that no one else will join their group, as they are probably the weakest team and have no money or other incentives. Kikoa tells them to keep trying and promises to find some candidates for them before moving to another table. The next morning, the entire team is introduced to a stern-faced woman named Mary, who is supposed to be Minato's replacement. However, she seems to be the complete opposite of him, lacking his smile and charm. They try to introduce themselves, but Mary doesn't care and asks where they are going. When they suggest heading to the ruins again, Mary tells them to make up their minds before speaking. The entire team starts feeling uneasy about Mary's antisocial attitude, and they begin to doubt whether she will stay in their group. Later that night, the boys head to the tavern to drink again. As they discuss the difficult situation they are in, they remember how challenging it has been to cooperate with Mary. When they finally come up with a combat plan, she refuses to fight, always saying she is a priestess who needs to hide and will only show herself when someone is hurt. Ranta tries to talk to her about it, telling her she needs to be more involved in fights, but she explains firmly that her duty is to heal serious injuries, not to cause harm. When it finally comes time for actual combat, Mary completely ignores their formation, causing even Moguzo to lose his temper. When they clash with a goblin, Ranta is injured quickly. Moguzo and Haruhiro manage to push the goblin back, and Haruhiro asks Mary to heal Ranta while they hold off the goblins. Mary simply responds that his injuries aren't that serious and that there is no need to waste mana on such a minor wound. Because of this mess, the goblins, who are on the verge of defeat, manage to escape, and the group gains nothing from the fight. After that, Haruhiro drowns his sadness in drinks, thinking about how Minato could have easily controlled the situation. When Minato was around, 2 goblins were a piece of cake for them, and now Haruhiro believes he is not capable of being a leader like Minato, no matter how hard he tries. Ranta suggests they forget about Mary and continue working in the ruined city to earn enough money to buy badges for the next level, but Haruhiro insists they can't just abandon a priest in their group. Suddenly, everyone falls silent as a figure enters the tavern. It is Renji, dressed in incredible armor from head to toe. He approaches Haruhiro and gives him a gold coin as a gift, feeling sorry for Minato's death. However, Haruhiro immediately stands up and returns the coin, saying the gesture is kind but he cannot accept it. Renji takes it back and moves on. When Haruhiro returns to the table, he encounters an angry Ranta. Ranta says that 1 gold coin is equivalent to 100 silver coins, and that with that money, they could have bought badges for the entire team. As the realization hits, Haruhiro points out to Ranta that they are not communicating well, and that since Minato's death, they have barely spoken to the girls. Ranta suggests they find a way to reconnect and become friends again, but Haruhiro admits he has no idea how to do that. Later that rainy night, Haruhiro waits outside while the girl gets out of the shower. He asks if she is mad at them, but she coldly replies that she isn't. Haruhiro apologizes, saying it was his fault and that he should have consulted them before inviting Mary to join their group. Suddenly, Yume screams, moves toward Haruhiro, and starts crying, saying that she and Shikuro are not good at expressing their feelings and that they have felt excluded since Minato's death. Haruhiro responds by saying he is also bad at expressing his feelings, but Yume tells him they were always a team. Soon, Haruhiro breaks down crying, and this time Yume comforts him, hugging him and saying that everything will be fine. After a long session of venting, they finally stop to rest, hugging each other like best friends. Yume then tells Haruhiro that she will do her best to become Mary's friend and that they will succeed in life and make Minato proud. While they lie there, Chaka opens the bathroom window to release some hot steam and suddenly realizes that Yume is in a very compromising position. From her angle, it looks like Yume is trying to dominate Haruhiro. Haruhiro immediately gets nervous and starts explaining that it's not what it seems, but Chako simply apologizes, embarrassed, and closes the window. Yume, however, doesn't care and tells Haruhiro that she has mastered the art of seducing and charming and jokes that she could demonstrate her skills one day. But Haruhiro tells her to leave, his eyes still focused on Chako's figure. The next morning, everyone sits down to have breakfast as they prepare to leave for another session of trauma and chat amongst themselves. Yume states that Mary hasn't been very cooperative, but she thinks none of them have tried to extend a warm and friendly hand to her. She tells them that today she'll try to be nice to Mary and make her a friend. Moguzo comments that he wants to be kind to her, but she never listens to anyone and never heals anyone. Ranta says he will make Mary fall in love with him, so she'll try to be kinder to everyone else, but everyone just ignores his silly idea. Haruhiro tells them they need to take it slow since Mary can't suddenly become friends with everyone in the group, and they all agree. Later that day, they meet Mary, and this time everyone greets her. Although she ignores them at first, she eventually greets them back and follows them. On the way, Yu tries to start a conversation and asks Mary what she had for breakfast. Surprisingly, Mary answers. Yume tries to continue the conversation by asking if she likes snacks, but Mary simply tells her she never eats snacks, claiming it is the secret of her perfect figure. They enter the ruined city and hide behind some rubble after spotting a group of goblins ahead. Haruhiro makes a plan and tells them that Ranta and Moguzo will attack first. Ranta and Moguzo make the initial attacks, surprising the goblins, while Yume and Haruhiro attack from the other side, creating a siege in the shape of a sandwich. A goblin attacks Haruhiro, and he barely manages to dodge while Yume provides support, They start attacking the goblin, while on the other side, Moguzo and Ranta are hit by their opponents but try to fight back. Mary immediately shouts at Moguzo, telling him to stay back, saying he shouldn't fight, which infuriates Ranta, who calls her a damn camper. Ranta is then attacked, but he dodges and kicks the goblin away, then rushes to make a big attack, stabbing the goblin in the neck. Meanwhile, Moguzo wins his sword clash and uses his heavy blade to crush his opponent completely, winning the fight. The last goblin, wielding 2 swords, is still alive and fights Haruhiro and Yume, making it difficult for their attacks to connect. Soon, Shihoru comes in with a dark binding spell and holds the goblin in place, allowing you to attack, but the goblin breaks free and moves away just in time to be attacked by Haruhiro, who runs past its swords and does a huge backstab, killing it immediately. Mary then goes to Moguzo, who was hit in the head, and asks him to remove his helmet. He does so, and she inspects his wound. When her touch causes him pain, she apologizes and uses her healing abilities to close the wound. They then return to an abandoned house to rest. In the meantime, Haruhiro tries to start a conversation with Mary, asking if there are different types of priests, but Mary replies that she doesn't know anything about that. Haruhiro insists, telling her she seems to have her own way of doing things when it comes to healing. He explains that Minato would heal anyone immediately as soon as they had an injury, so he asks what exactly her plan of action is. She coldly says he doesn't need to know that. As Haruhiro continues further, Mary starts to grow more frustrated with him. Seeing this, Haruhiro decides to let it go for now. That night, Haruhiro and everyone else, including the girls, visit the tavern. Ranta tells them to calm down, as this is the first time they've been in a place like this. While talking, they notice Mary entering the bar. Even after seeing them, she simply ignores them and sits alone. Ranta grows frustrated with her behavior, but Shihoru argues that they didn't even try to call her over, so they can't blame her completely. Ranta states that they don't need to be considerate of her for no reason, to which Shihoru retorts that even Ranta's parents probably don't love him, sparking a fight between them. During their argument, they notice a young knight approaching and talking to Mary. Ranta recognizes him and says he is Shinohara, part of a famous clan. They try to imagine why he is talking to Mary. That night, Haruhiro sits alone near the fire, thinking about how perfect Minato is, which makes him feel pessimistic about his own actions. At that moment, he has a hallucination of Minato appearing beside him, saying he can do it. The next morning, they go to the ruins again, where Moguzo and Haruhiro engage in one-on-one fights. Haruhiro cuts his opponent before looking at Moguzo, realizing he is being forced to fight carefully. Moguzo is without a helmet, which could lead to a fatal blow to the head. Realizing this, Haruhiro runs behind the goblin while Moguzo pushes it back. Haruhiro takes the opportunity to slash the goblin, confusing it while Moguzo finishes it off. Later, as they walk through an alley, Haruhiro insists on Moguzo buying a helmet and even offers to help him pay for it, while Mary listens to their conversation attentively. Yume also supports the idea and offers to contribute. Ranta, spotting goblins in the area, calls out, forcing Haruhiro to face one. The situation worsens when a hidden goblin tries to attack Mary, but Ranta comes to her defense, kicking the beast away before stabbing it to death. Soon, Mary swings her staff, crushing another goblin. Haruhiro notices that Mary has learned attack skills with her staff, but unlike Minato, she stays in the backline. Realizing this, he becomes more alert to protect her when danger arises. That night, as Mary is leaving, Haruhiro stops her and invites her to dinner, but Mary refuses and leaves. That night, they go to the bar to learn more about Mary. There, they meet Shinohara, who sits with them. Haruhiro quickly asks about Mary, which surprises Renji. He tells them they should ask Hayashi about Mary since they both were in the same group before. Hayashi then sits with them and starts talking about the good old days with Mary. Hayashi describes Mary as the heart of their group, always happy and lively, the complete opposite of what she is now. She never let anyone get hurt and was always ready to help, healing even minor scratches immediately. However, as the group continued to grow stronger, they became arrogant and ventured deeper into dangerous territory. One day, they encountered a powerful monster that had already slain many adventurers. There, Hayashi was knocked out by the monster. When he regained consciousness, he saw 2 of his teammates dead, while the team's warriors struggled to keep the monster at bay. He shouted for Mary to heal them, but she clung to the body of one of her teammates, tears in her eyes, and cried that she had no mana left for magic. Since then, the smile on Mary's face has disappeared. Hayashi wakes up from his unconscious state and looks at the grim situation in front of him. The beast is overpowering the group while Michiki does his best to hold it back from attacking the remaining survivors. Hayashi asks Mary for help in the battle, but when he looks over at her, he sees a sobbing Mary holding her dear comrades in her lap. She bursts into tears and explains that she has used up all her magic and can't assist him. Meanwhile, the beast is overpowering Michiki, who falls back toward Hayashi and Mary, ordering Hayashi to take Mary away. Unwillingly, Hayashi pulls Mary away and takes her to safety, while the injured soldier Michiki walks back toward the beast, with Mary screaming for him to stop. Michiki gives them one last smile and dives in to absorb the beast's attack while Hayashi manages to escape with Mary. Hayashi then explains to the group that Mary has lost hope in the world and has been hopping from party to party to keep her mind busy, never staying in one place for long. He asks the group to help Mary in any way possible. The group sympathizes with her and honors the comrades they have lost, acknowledging that once a comrade is gone, they can never return. At night, the group has an argument about Mary's past sob story. Renta complains that knowing her backstory was a waste of time, while Haruhiro and the others beg to differ, telling him that she is somewhat similar to them and has endured the same pain of losing a comrade. Ranta then sits down and argues with Haruhiro, who's adamant that they should get to know Mary. He asks if Haruhiro has ever tried to learn anything about him, but the group intervenes and answers on Haruhiro's behalf. Instead of escalating the argument, Haruhiro acknowledges his mistake and apologizes to Ranta for his behavior. Surprisingly, Ranta also softens his anger and agrees with Haruhiro to meet Mary the next day. He then apologizes to Shihoru for his earlier comments and tells her that he didn't mean to upset her. Everyone in the group is suddenly taken aback by his apology and jokes that it will rain after his confession. The group continues their little argument while Haru is thinking about how he will face Mary the next day. The following day, it miraculously rains. Haru and Yume are hiding in a bush when Haru recognizes a goblin carrying his dagger. He tries to lunge for it, but Yume pulls him back to avoid getting caught. Haru apologizes for his impulsive action and suggests that they should tail the goblin to find its hideout. At the party's hideout, everyone is sitting and minding their own business when Yume and Haru return to update them about the situation. Haru calls Mary and tells her that he wants to talk to her. Surprisingly, Mary walks in front of him in a defensive stance, making Haru realize that she has been kicked out of many parties before and thinks they will do the same to her. This is why she is in a defensive state. Haru warmly reassures her that he only wants to talk and shares their group's past with her. He tells her about their previous healer Minato, who was a dear comrade. She looks at him trying to understand as he recounts Minato's death and how it was due to their group's own negligence. Mary listens carefully as Haru describes how Minato used to heal every single scratch and wound on the team regardless of the injury. He explains that they never bothered to understand his feelings until he was gone, which was when they grasped the real meaning of comrade bonding. Haru tells her that Minato was the one who made them a group and fostered a sense of friendship among them, but he himself never expressed that he was tired or hurt, which was the main reason the group didn't understand the circumstances he was going through. Haru encourages Mary to express her real feelings and to tell the group when she feels bad or is tired so they can understand her better. Mary looks at him in shock when he calls her his friend and assures her that the group needs her. The rest of the party joins in, letting Mary know that they also consider her a friend. She is taken aback by everyone's enthusiastic response, and to everyone's surprise, even Ranta agrees that Mary is his friend too. Haru makes another joke about Ranta's apology while Ranta whines in response. After the rain comes a beautiful day and the group walks to their next destination. Mary is about to depart separately, but Haru tries to persuade her to help Moguzu buy a helmet and she refuses. Haru tries again, asking if she would like to have dinner with them, but she again apologizes and tells them not yet before walking away. Haru doesn't get disheartened. He is happy that they are making progress in getting Mary to open up to them. He walks into the market with the group, wishing they can always be together when there is a tomorrow. The group creates new happy memories in the market, bonding over time, fighting against goblins, and embarking on different adventures together. Mary gradually warms up to the party, with the girls becoming more open with each other and Mary engaging more normally with everyone as they tackle their new missions. Haru narrates the group's new abilities and their growing attacks. He has unconsciously discovered his ability to pierce through the goblins' vital parts without even realizing it. The group feels proud of their capabilities and powers. At night, when Haru can't seem to fall asleep, he sits outside and gazes up at the sky, reflecting on the group's growth. Suddenly, his old friend walks up from behind him and joins him on this restless night. They talk about the group, and it turns out to be just an illusion of Minato inside Haru's mind. He smiles and looks at the sky, wishing he could show Minato how much his group has grown over time. The next day, Haru's group sits in their meeting spot, forming a circle with their hands on each other in front of them to create a group plan. Mary hesitantly places her hand above the group to show her cooperation. A silent moment passes until Ranta tells Haru to say something while they are all in this position. Haru, confused, asks how everyone slept last night. It's a lame question, and before Ranta can complain, the group cuts in, telling Haru that they had the best night's sleep. However, Mary speaks up, saying she didn't sleep well. Haru agrees, admitting he also struggled to sleep because he was thinking about Minato. Suddenly, while everyone processes Haru's words, Mary asks him about his level of powers. Although it's a blunt question, she wonders if he has the abilities to avenge Minato. She calls him Hal, which confuses Ranta, who presses to inquire what Hal means, but Yum tells him to be quiet. Haru confesses that he believes he has the ability to stay calm while avenging Minato, but he thinks he will become impulsive when the moment arrives. Mary reassures him that he is not alone in this matter, and that everyone stands with him on this path of revenge. Haru opens up again, expressing his trust in the group. In deep thought, he states that he will get stronger to avenge Minato, as he can't forget the pain of losing his friend. He encourages the group, saying he wants to make it out alive with everyone safe and sound alongside him. Now that everyone, including Mary, is with him, Haru is determined to make it out in one piece. Mary reveals that she is a priest who let her friends die in battle right in front of her, but Haru cuts her off, reminding her that they also lost their priest. He emphasizes that next time they encounter danger, they need to protect everyone and avoid repeating the same mistake. Mary thinks for a moment, and Yum and the group show their support with gestures. Mary then announces that she understands her responsibility and promises to protect everyone, vowing never to let any of her comrades die again. Haru smiles at her declaration and gives the group an encouraging boost with the line, "Break a leg." The group confusedly repeats after him. After their little encouraging meeting, everyone gets ready to set off. Ranta asks Haru what Hal means, but Haru himself is confused and oblivious about the term. He looks over at Mary, who quietly nods at him before walking away. In another beautiful yet dilapidated building, goblins have made their hideout. The group approaches the building quietly, sneaking behind the goblins to launch their attack. With Yum accurately striking and killing one of the goblins and opening forms for Haru to enter and take on the ground guard goblin. The group bursts into the goblin hideout. Backing each other up, they advance forward, fighting off the goblins. Haru is surprised to see that these goblins are aware of human fighting techniques and can counter them effectively. Everyone uses their powers and abilities, but it feels as if the goblins can see right through their moves. In the heat of battle, everyone's attention is diverted toward Yum, who has been stabbed in the shoulder by a goblin. Ranta lunges to attack the goblin that injured her, but is intercepted by another goblin. Haru rushes to engage the goblin that stabbed Yum, only to discover that it is stronger than he anticipated and quickly overpowers him. Just as Haru fears he won't be able to handle the goblin alone, Mary steps in and asks him to switch places. She manages to land a strong hit on the goblin, giving Haru the opening he needs to attack. Haru jumps in and inflicts several fatal wounds on the goblin, but it pushes him away just before he receives a deadly blow. Mary quickly chants an incantation, casting a spell to heal Yum's shoulder, which is restored within seconds. Another team member is also struggling against a larger goblin, but Mary assists by healing him, while the group's witch quickly casts a spell to make the giant goblin fall asleep. With their coordinated efforts, they manage to defeat the dangerous creature. Moving deeper into the hideout, they find a sleeping goblin sitting in front of a chessboard. Ranta moves forward, ready to behead the goblin, when suddenly everyone's attention shifts back to Mary, who has just been shot by an arrow. The group rushes to her aid as Ranta screams at the goblin who shot her and tries to chase it down, only to be stopped by Haru, who shields Mary from another arrow before it can hit her. What seems like an easy target turns into a deadly ambush as they scramble to fight off the goblins attacking them. Determined to avenge Mary, Haru goes after the goblin that shot her, regretting that they let their guard down and made the same mistake as before with Minato. Using a clever plan, Haru distracts the goblin and jumps down to confront it. The goblin pulls out the dagger Haru had been pursuing, leading to a one-on-one fight. Haru manages to disarm the goblin, but he is soon overpowered when the goblin starts choking him. Just as he feels himself slipping into unconsciousness, Yum calls out his name, snapping him back to reality. He quickly strikes the goblin's neck, killing it on the spot, and thanks Yum for her timely help. Later that night, after tending to Mary's wounds, the group visits Minato's grave. They reflect on their time together, and in the heavy atmosphere, Haru thinks about their brief moments as comrades. As snow begins to fall, Haru tells Minato that they have finally become proper volunteer soldiers, having bought badges for themselves after everything settled down. Ranta tries to argue against the sentiment, but Yum stops him. Each member takes a moment to talk to Minato, and when Haru walks toward the grave, she places Minato's badge on top of the gravestone and breaks down in tears. Yum consoles her while the others give her the space to grieve. The group returns to their hideout with heavy hearts after their emotional moment. Mary and Haru share a deep conversation about their painful memories of losing their comrades. Haru finally senses that Mary has developed full trust in the team and is willing to do anything to protect them. Mary bids goodbye and walks away to her room. Episode 9. The next day, Haru wakes up and remembers that the group has decided to take a day off. While brushing his teeth, he notices Moguzo baking bread. Haru feels happy about having a relaxing day after such a long time, but he's also confused. After being engaged in battle for so long, he can't recall what he used to do on his days off. He tries to think of any activities, but feels completely lost. As they eat the freshly baked bread, Haru asks Moguzo about Ranta. To his surprise, Moguzo tells him that Ranta has been gone since morning, implying he actually had something in mind to do. They enjoy the bread together, and Haru asks about everyone's plans for the day. It turns out he's the only one without a plan. After bidding goodbye to Moguzo, he heads toward a bridge where he finds Shihiro playing with some birds. He asks her if she likes them, and she politely replies that she's just been playing around after seeing them. As they watch the sunset, Haru is reminded of the times their group spent together enjoying the view. Shihiro turns to him and expresses her happiness about being on the team, saying she would love to be a comrade in Haru's group. Haru reassures her that she's an important member and will always be with the team. Meanwhile, Yu is still asleep in her room. Haru leaves her behind and roams the lodgings, eventually stumbling upon Mary, who's enjoying her day off at a cafe terrace. She invites him to sit next to her and keep her company. While sipping her coffee, she asks Haru about his time at the lodgings. He feels a bit strange about his mixed feelings, realizing they are bound to travel repeatedly, and getting attached to the lodgings never crossed his mind. He thinks about Mary and realizes these lodgings hold emotional significance for her since it's where she used to stay with her former party mates, who are no longer with her. At the same time, Ranta is lying in his boat, waiting for fish to take the bait. Suddenly, he sees Yum climbing a mountain with her bare hands. He is amazed by her determination and strength. Moguzo was also taking a nap after his long day of creativity. Once everyone reconvenes after their day off, they meet at their usual bar to discuss their next adventure. As they deliberate, Haru mumbles to himself about wanting to go to Siren Mine to change their hunting grounds. Realizing he spoke aloud, he quickly apologizes, but Ranta jumps in, agreeing that it's a good idea. The group collectively decides to visit Siren Mine next, despite knowing the dangers that lie ahead. Upon hearing the name of their next destination, Mary suddenly becomes anxious and excuses herself, prompting Haru to stumble after her. He helps her calm down from her anxiety attack, recognizing that this location is where she lost her comrades. She expresses her determination to move on from the past with the support of her new team members and thanks Haru for his help. The following day, Haru pays 50 silvers to learn a special technique called the spider technique. However, he quickly discovers that it's much more challenging than he anticipated. The master teaching him doesn't hold back at all during the training. She strikes him brutally and even teases him about his fighting techniques and stances. After enduring a round of intense training, the master sits on top of him, applying her weight in another attempt to push him further. She offers valuable advice on improving his technique and urges him to focus more on life. Once the group is ready, they set off on their journey to Siren Mines. Haru narrates the history of Siren Mine, explaining how it was once under human authority until monsters attacked and occupied the area, which has yet to be reclaimed. With that, the group begins their journey, prepared to face all the challenges that await them. The group finds themselves engaged in a fierce battle against new monsters, the chaos of clashing bodies filling the air. Ranta and Haru, both close-range fighters, struggle to keep up in their one-on-one fights, while the rest of the group efficiently takes down their opponents. Yum showcases her newly developed technique, Star Strike, launching blades at enemies and dispatching them instantly. Haru taps into his newly learned spider technique, successfully defeating another monster. Soon, everyone finishes off their opponents except Ranta, who is still grappling with his nemesis. He attempts to use his new technique against the monster, which initially seems effective, but the creature responds with wild, relentless attacks. The group watches concerned as Ranta pushes himself to the limit. Haru offers assistance, but Ranta stubbornly declines, determined to handle it himself. Despite his exhaustion, Ranta ultimately manages to bring down the monster. After their hard-fought victory, the group inspects the corpses. Mary informs Haru that these kobold monsters carry protection talismans that shield them from external threats. Haru examines one, noting its potential value, but Mary clarifies that the kobolds are divided into several classes, and the ones they just fought are the weakest. This means stronger monsters and stronger talismans await them ahead. Ranta, not one to miss a prize, rips a steel nose ring from one of the corpses, claiming it as his own. Haru feels a twinge of unease at Ranta's brutal display, but keeps his thoughts to himself. He reflects on how they are the actual invaders in the kobold's territory, recognizing that it's natural for the creatures to defend themselves. Still, he feels guilty for not respecting the enemy corpses and carefully extracts silver pins from the fallen monsters before moving on. The group decides to navigate the pathways of wells to reach the third level of the kobold territory safely. They know the higher-level kobolds are protected by a powerful defense machine called a gondola. After making their way to the second level, they caution one another that things will become serious from this point on, urging everyone to be extra careful with their actions. As they traverse the second level, they notice the kobolds are all asleep. Mary points out that these creatures mostly slumber and will only awaken if something significant occurs. While the group passes through a narrow passage, Moguzo suddenly asks if they hear something. The group exchanges glances, nodding in agreement, aware that something might be lurking just out of sight. Ranta glances over to a nearby cave and spots several kobold monsters sleeping inside. As the group quietly moves away, Ranta suggests taking them out while they're vulnerable for easy loot. Haru firmly disagrees, insisting they should respect the enemy, even if they are unaware of the group's presence. He challenges Ranta, asking if he considers himself a demon for attacking opponents in such a defenseless state. Ranta scoffs at the notion, proclaiming he's not a demon but a servant of the dark god, Skullhead. To him, everyone is equal in death, regardless of their morals or laws. He elaborates that every act in life leads to the same fate when embraced by death. Ranta continues his monologue, but Haru, already walking away, calls over his shoulder that he's moving ahead. Ranta realizes he's been talking to himself and rushes after Haru, complaining that he wants to be heard. Haru merely shrugs him off, uninterested. Unbeknownst to them, a group of high-class kobolds follows, lying in wait to ambush the party. Just in time, Shihoru casts a new immobilization spell, freezing the enemies in place. The group quickly coordinates and takes down the kobolds with ease. Haru capitalizes on the opportunity, using his skills to strike a vital point, dropping one of the beasts with a single blow. As they prepare to move on, Haru checks in with Mary, who assures him she's fine. That night, back in their hideout, Haru reflects on Ranta's defiance, questioning what difference it would make if he were leading instead of Minato. Lying awake in the darkness, he asks Ranta to step outside for a chat, and Ranta agrees. Outside, Haru inquires about Ranta's feelings regarding the group. Ranta shares his thoughts, but Haru grows irritated, scolding him for not acting like a true teammate instead of a solo fighter. Ranta swiftly turns the conversation back to Haru, asking what his weaknesses are. Haru refuses to disclose them, and Ranta admits that his own weakness lies in coordinating with the team. Yet he insists he's still fulfilling his duties. He makes it clear that he's affected by others' dislike, but doesn't care whether anyone in the group likes or hates him. With that, Ranta heads off to bed, leaving Haru sighing, contemplating his leadership abilities. The next morning, Haru is jolted awake by the sound of Yun practicing her knife throwing. She mentions that her technique relies heavily on precision, just like his. Meanwhile, Mary has developed a new magic spell, using it effectively on beasts to dispatch them quickly. The group soon finds themselves engaged in another hectic battle against the kobolds, each member seizing their opportunity to use their skills. Haru's frustration with Ranta escalates as he observes his reckless solo fighting. He attempts to scold Ranta for his impulsiveness, but Ranta pays no mind, even getting dangerously close to hitting Haru during a scuffle. Haru's agitation mounts, but he channels his anger into battling the kobolds fiercely. Meanwhile, Moguzo demonstrates his new technique, Fast Thrust, executing a swift one-handed attack that expands his range, complemented by a powerful bag thrust aimed at the beasts. The group soon takes down all the kobolds, leaving only the eldest one standing. Haru quickly instructs everyone to take positions and prevent the kobold from escaping. Just as he finishes speaking, Ranta charges forward and lands a fatal blow, effortlessly defeating the creature. With the threat eliminated, the team advances to the next level, finding themselves in a surprisingly serene location, a stark contrast to their previous encounters. As they explore a lush field, Yun points out some adorable little creatures frolicking nearby. Ranta, eager to interact, reaches for them with his sword. Haru swiftly intervenes, warning him not to harm the creatures. Ranta insists he means no harm, leading to a brief argument until Mary signals for silence and urges everyone to crouch down. They watch as several kobolds attempt to track their movements. Ranta again suggests they take the offensive, but Haru advises against it, knowing it could lead to unnecessary trouble. In the chaos, the group accidentally triggers a booby trap, drawing the attention of nearby kobolds. Mary realizes their precarious situation and urges everyone to move quietly away from the field, emphasizing that they're at a significant disadvantage in such an open space. As they begin to sneak away, a chilling sound of chains and metal clinking stops Mary in her tracks, sending shivers down her spine. It's the same kobold beast that had slaughtered her comrades, now brandishing the sword of one of her fallen friends. Frozen with fear, she struggles to regain her composure while Haru notices the beast and identifies it as the Mega Demon Death Spots. He understands the urgency of their predicament and knows they must leave quickly to avoid casualties. Mary is still trapped in a panic, breathing heavily, when the beast suddenly shifts its gaze in their direction, sensing their presence. Haru finds himself in a tight spot, desperately trying to devise a strategy to keep his comrades safe without drawing the demon's wrath. Mary is sleeping peacefully with her back against a tree, and she is woken up by one of her old comrades who were dead at the present time. Seeing a beautiful fraction of her memories, Mary is reminded of that peaceful day when her members made the decision to go to the Serene Mine again. Michiki announces that all the other teams are aiming to go further into Serene Mine so they can't be let out, and everyone laughs at their leader, taking everything as a challenge. They joke around about their leader's decision and share a hefty laughter. Mary is still looking at her laughing comrade when she gets a strange feeling in herself and hears someone calling out her name. Haru shakes her to get her out of her beautiful memory garden. Mary regains her consciousness and apologizes to everyone about her behavior. The death spot drags Michiki's sword with it and walks away, leaving the group to sigh a relief. They move forward and get to the metal melting location where they keep hiding in their spot to avoid getting caught. Mary warns them that this is the most difficult location to get through without getting caught or seen. They decide to rest a bit before making their next move, and Mary takes them to a location her old party used for resting. Carefully, Haru kills the guards surrounding that place, and the group sneaks inside the hidden cave. Mary is visibly shaken from the turns of events. She picks up a sword and recognizes it to be her own wand. Suddenly, Yume asks the group if they can hear something around them. She recognizes it to be someone's footsteps as Ranta picks up a luminescent stone and throws it in the direction of this sound and sees 3 people in cloaks walking towards them. Haru quickly realizes that these are the victims of the No-Life King's curse who are living a false life after becoming a corpse. Mary suddenly walks towards them and calls out their names as Michiki, Og, and Wetsum. Turns out these are the dead corpses of her own dead comrades. She calls out to them and asks if they recognize her and expresses her feeling of missing them, but instead of any effect on them, they get in a fighting stance to fight the group. Mary asks Haru to back her up as she's going to take them head-on in the battle this time. Haru is a bit taken aback by her courage and realizes that Mary is already prepared for this day and orders the team members to get ready for the action. Mary's old comrades launch the first attack by casting a burning spell on them. The group then lunges forward and attacks the enemy. Shikora attacks the enemy by casting spells for her teammates and helping them in the battle. Haru observes the powerful attacks from the corpse enemies and realizes that everyone in the other team is stronger than them and is way above level than them. Mary then walks into the firewall made by her dead comrade, with Haru following right behind her. Inside the magic wall, Mary uses her magic spells and dispels the curse on her comrades and manages to free them from the curse. The corpse turns into dust and Mary hugs them deadly as an attempt to hug her comrades for the one last time. She uses the same technique on O's corpse as well when Ranta and Haru again get into an argument, with Ranta telling Haru that he doesn't need to complicate everything, making him realize that they are in an ongoing battle and Haru needs to help out his teammates with the fight. Getting back in his leadership position, Haru guides Yume and tells her to be careful and refrain herself from hitting Moguzo while aiming at the enemy. Taking an opening, Ranta and Haru manage to attack Michiki's corpse, while Mary runs towards it and casts her Dispel spell. For a second, the corpse also hugs her back and pats her head like Michiki, and turns into dust the next second, leaving a broken Mary break down in tears as she bids her bye to Michiki. Everyone is left with a distaste after the battle, realizing the outcome of this fight, while Mary was looking at the dust corpse and bidding them a goodbye. After the battle, everyone talks about how strong Mary's old comrades were and tells her that we'll also get stronger like them to protect their friends. Shigoro is also motivated to learn new magic, and Yu expresses her desire to buy a wolf dog for herself. They are relaxing after the fight and deciding what they want to do when they get home, when their peace is disrupted by the entrance of a well-known enemy. The death spot has invaded their resting spot and charges toward them. Haru tells the group to retreat and run away, but Ranta quickly screams at him to look forward and avoid the attack charged towards him. Saving himself from a near-death moment, Haru and his party manage to escape Death Spot and run towards the exit, with all the kobolds tracking behind them. Ranta shows an exceptional act of bravery, saving all of his comrades and making sure everyone gets out of the place safely. Haru, on the other hand, decides that he is going to face the Death Spot and let his team out to safety, but Ranta, being the devil himself, doesn't allow that and saves Haru from falling down. He tells Haru that he isn't going to lose any comrades anymore like they lost Minato. Haru is taken back from the courage and decides to escape with everyone. Just as everything was going right and the party was escaping, Death Spot launched a sudden attack, and this caused Ranta to fall back down, with Haru trying to grab his hand but failed to do so. Ranta falls back into the enemy ground and forces Haru to leave him there and escape with the group as a leader. With a heavy heart, Haru leaves Ranta there unwillingly and gets out of the well, with everyone asking where Ranta was. Haru tells them Ranta is not going to come up from the well and decides to stay back. He had to buck himself back up and help the party to escape. Meanwhile, inside the cave, Ranta coolly challenges the death spot for a match, and to his distance, the kobolds use arrows at him, but Ranta takes the situation in a funny way and gets ready to charge his attack to the enemy. Inside the cave, Ranta's helmet drips with blood as Death Spot looks above to see where Ranta has escaped. Ranta manages to escape the enemy and climbs out of the well. The kobolds are still marching to the location to search for the party, but aren't able to find Ranta because he is found in between some gooey, huge monsters, which gave him the perfect cover against the enemy. He uses his powers and summons his magic caterpillar, which tells him to die and embrace the Death Lord. He lays back and wonders about it. On the other hand, the team is resting in a cave with Mary healing Haru and Haru explaining their priorities to the group. They make rescuing Ranta as their top priority. Yu speaks up and expresses that she doesn't like Ranta at all and dislikes it when he calls her flat-chested, even when she asks him to stop. She expresses that it is already hard for her to even like that guy, let alone rescue him, but her strong facade breaks down when she says that staying alone in these caves is a terrifying experience and Ranta would be terrified right now as well. She breaks down in tears with Chihiro trying to calm her down. Haru and Moguzo are staying on the bright side and believe that Ranta would not be dead so easily, because if he had died for this kind of recklessness, he would have been dead for a long time ago. The group sets off to rescue him. Meanwhile, another kobold walks towards the gigantic monsters where Ranta is hiding, and just as he is about to hurt Ranta, he is stabbed in the chest. A weapon in his hand falls to the ground and alerts another of kobold enemy nearby who sends a signal to other kobolds. Ranta has no other option but to flee the location on his heavily wounded body, with the caterpillar telling Ranta to die continuously. He escapes and hides in a shed where he thinks about Yum and wishes he had had his fun with her. The group had previously spotted him and were moving forward to save him. Inside the shed, Ranta gets another mini heart attack when the roof of the shed is open and Death Spot stares down inside on him. Ranta screams and Death Spot trails after him while he tries to run away. Just as Death Spot is about to attack Ranta, an arrow hits him, and turns out it was Yu who shot the arrow and protected Ranta. The group quickly jumps into the scene rescuing Ranta and begins their fight against these kobolds. Mary quickly enchants her spell and heals Ranta. Ranta jumps in and joins the battle alongside Haru. Haru asks Ranta if he can run, and when he gets the response Haru wants, he signals Chihiro to launch her attack. Her attack blinds the enemy from the sudden impact and gives the group a clear opening to escape the battle. Inside another hiding spot, Mary continues her healing for Ranta to recover. While she is healing him, Yu begins to tease him while he tells her that he surely didn't want to see her, which is clearly not what he said previously in the shed. They both continue their little argument when Ranta begins continuously calling her flat-chested, when Mary holds his face and threatens him to stop or else she will stop healing him. He obediently obeys and the group finally relaxes after their long, tough day. The group decides to call it a day after Mary and Chihiro have reached their limit. Just as the group was making their leave from the place, they were attacked by the Death Spots. The group members are all already exhausted and aren't able to fight against the beast when Haru feels the responsibility as a leader and tells his party members to escape without him. He entrusts everyone's safety in the hands of Ranta and takes out his scarf to choke Death Spots. He pulls him back and falls into a pit, taking the Death Spots with him. Mary tries to go after Haru, but Ranta stops her and pulls her back, taking her outside. The group successfully escapes, but Haru is almost losing his consciousness when Ranta yells at him to stay alive till they return back to get him. This wakes Haru up, and he decides that he is going to fight till the bitter end and live after this battle. He relaxes all of his body muscles and lets his ability awaken to defeat the Death Spots. The green rays of vital points appear before him, and he lets his body to subconsciously follow the pathway of these rays. His body moves exactly in the direction of these vitals and helps Haru to easily stab Death Spot's eye. Following next, Haru is able to break away the sword in Death Spot's hand, and the blade of the sword impales Death Spot and kills him on the spot. Haru staggers and falls down after the Death Spot is dead. Opening his eyes, he realizes that Mary is sitting right in front of him, and she laughs seeing Haru is now awake. With tears in her eyes, she welcomes him back. He walks out of the room only to find all of his party mates sitting outside safe and sound enjoying the day. Everyone is rejoicing Haru is now awake. Moguzo offers a bowl of soup for Haru to eat, while Randa hands over a bag full of gold to Haru, which was the award from their last mission. Moguzo tells Haru that Ranta suggested they split all the money after he was awake, respecting him as a leader, but Haru's face seems to be totally unimpressed by his gesture. The team tells him that they went back to rescue him and found Haru unconscious next to the dead Death Spots and retrieved him from there. Moguzo also tells him that he brought back Death Spot's sword to try making it his own one, as his original one broke in the battle. Finally, the team gets a happy ending for themselves as they are now stronger than how they were before. Mary brings back Haru's necklace after fixing it and puts it on him. Finally, Haru tells her that he is back home. The peace is finally restored and the group goes to the bar for a celebration and everyone hypes Haru up for his victory over Death Spots. Mary is now more expressive and happy. Her old friend who thought he made Mary an empty shell also smiles about the fact that Mary is now happier than ever. Renji also comes to Haru and apologizes for his behavior on Minato's death, but Haru explains that it was also his own mistake for acting all out because he was not willing to accept his comrade's death. Afterward, Haru visits Minato's grave and tells him all about their adventures and asks a deep question about things being tough on him, benign their leader but an illusion of Minato behind him, says otherwise making Haru's heart feel lighter. He smiles to the sky knowing Minato is also happy about his decision.